this article was literally wishy-washy. And basically, what it tells us about is the EFCC arrested, and I hope we don't hear it later that all they did was invite Patricia Etta, who was a former Speaker of the House around 2011, um, for an investigation that they had unraveled that she had some kind of fraudulent association with an NDDC contract. And basically, what they were saying was that there was a solar power electrification scam or project that was awarded to Filling Gym Projects Limited, okay, to the tune of 240 million. From their investigations, initial sum of 34 million was paid to the contractor, and then another sum of 253 million, raising the contract sum to about 287. Now, their issue with Patricia is that they're saying that this contractor paid Patricia Etta, the former speaker, 130 million. And from their analysis that she's neither a director or a contractor, that how come that money was paid? One, when they quizzed her, she said that the contractor was paying her back money that she lent them. And they said, well, that this contractor was too liquid to take a loan from anyone. So they have adduced that it is a fraudulent transaction.
Now, Devo, let's get. I mean, yes, we see the name Patricia Ete and we think, okay, yes, so something is happening on this front. But let's get into the pattern that we see when it comes to the NDDC, right? This thing was created in order to bring development
Right.
back into a troubled region back in 2011. This is 2022. We've seen so much news come out. We see numbers flying about trillions and billions, hundreds
Right.
of billions. I mean, this feels like a little bit of small fry
Yeah.
compared to the numbers that we
You
usually
hear
see
these
when it comes
days.
to it. When it comes to
This
that,
this this
let's talk
this
about
fraud
that.
is learning work. I'm
So
hearing.
let's talk about that.
Yes. Now let's start with the people who are first of all responsible for digging out all these crimes against the Commonwealth of Nigeria, the EFCC. I mean, I am sick and tired of media trials. And the media trial is just simply you've done the initial work and you come out to the public and say, hey, I don't catch thief. And then the thief literally is looking at you and wondering, excuse me, what do you mean I'm a thief? If you have a case, right, uh, prosecute her, take her to court, book her. Let's see at the end of the day that truly your investigation unraveled and uncovered grand scale corruption in high places in the country. I mean, this smacks of incompetence and a political ruse. And the funny part is that you are tarnishing her image on conjecture. Because I can argue that you had no case against her. And at the end of the day, you just came out to the media, and what happens after a few days? It frizzles off, or it dies off, or we don't hear the end of it. Now, for a contract that was 287 million for solar electricity, if 130 has been paid out, the first question I want to ask is, was the contract delivered? If you've paid out 130, how much did you have left? What was done? That's not covered in this story. Now, EFCC seems to be playing lip service. They just simply just bark. They don't have a bite. Now, because it seems as if these, how do we call it? All these positions that they say that they caught one person or they caught another person, they seem to fall on the altar of politics. And after some time, we don't hear about them any day. I mean, first of all, has the EFCC resolved the issue of honorable minister off your mic? Remember that came out of the NDDC probe. At the end of the day, I mean, from Buhari's position when he took up all the Niger Delta governors, he said the NDDC had become a cesspit of corruption. I mean, okay, you have confirmed that it's a cesspit of corruption. So I expect that your boys, and when I say your boys, I'm referring to the AFCC, I'm referring to the ICPC, I'm referring to the police, should have gone in by now and know the few culprits.
Question,
Or
Devo.
have they also off their mics?
Question, Devo, to you and to our listeners and watchers. Is it time to put the NDDC to bed?
Well, the truth it
with
is.
with the amount of money that has been funneled into this, with the amount of ghost workers that have cropped up, with the contracts in billions
Right.
that have been awarded without tangible development,
Mm.
is it time to put the NDDC to bed?
Well,
I'm
remember,
asking you.
yeah, there was a case that the minister, that what's his name, that went for presidency, the former Godswill Akpabio. He was supposed to deliver the NDDC out of its problems, but so many have said that he was even part of the problem, given the fact that he wasn't able to elect a board at the end of the day. So, should the NDDC be sacked or put down? No, because it had a purpose. The Niger Delta, till date, remains undeveloped. That's not their fault. So I expect the government to fall on its sword and either hand over to someone who can deliver the NDDC. Because the truth is, I'm not seeing a case whereby all the billions that have been moved into the NDDC were returned. And it's just unfortunate that we're still at the same place that we met it. No difference, no change.
You know, the Joy Youth Council has said that the same Godswill Akpabio, in connivance with others, has engaged in acts of forgery and illegal payment of 20 billion naira to ghost workers. But we move on because we have more stories.
That's right. Keep sending in your messages on WhatsApp. Cisco Delgado sends in this one, says 2011. They're bringing up the issues now. Please, they shouldn't distract us from the former, with the former speaker case. We're very much interested in the 80 billion naira case of the accountant general of the federation. Ian Kabolo also sends a message, says, "Bam." And that's how you catch a thief. Shebi, you borrowed them 100 million naira, Abi. Please show us evidence of that loan. And while you're at it, please explain how you became a 100 million naira you were not using. Devil, please cut the EFCC some slack here. Rather, let's teach them on how to be better. Let's get on to our next story in from the Punch newspaper. Federal government fails to allocate over 1,300 megawatts. Blackout looms, according to a report. Now, over 1,000 megawatts of electricity are currently not allocated to power distribution companies, that's DISCOs, despite low generation by Nigeria's 23 power plants. So, Devo, the problem has not always been generation. Distribution is where our problem lies. This is not the first time we're talking about this story. Can you bring in some analysis here so the listeners can understand better?
Well, I've not known the Punch newspaper to be economic with words. In this instance, they literally have done that. What do you mean by blackout looms? We've been in a blackout since.
It's going to be worse, maybe.
What is worse than people not having lights? What is worse than people not being able to buy diesel or any other form of alternative energy like kerosene? I mean, Nigerians have been in the black for a long time. But you see, this whole article here just simply regurgitates like a cow that is chewing its this thing again, cord again, the situation in the country. So I don't need to break it down, but basically the status is this. The power sector is divided into three organs: the generation, transmission, and the discos. That's the distribution. Now the generation, they have about 13,000 megawatts installed capacity. Transmission has about 8,000 megawatts installed capacity. That's the national grid. However, it never pushes beyond 4,000 megawatts. Okay, and the distribution, which is what they get, the 4,000 megawatts, which even despite the 4,000 megawatts, much of that, that's about one third of that, is evacuated or it's even rejected. Now, for a country of 200 million, experts say that will require minimum 30,000 megawatts at least for reliable energy supply. Now, this is a far cry from our brothers Ubuntu in South Africa, who are at 50 million. That's a quarter of Nigeria's population. They're producing 58,000 megawatts. Now, the federal government has invested over 2 trillion in the last 9 years, ever since the Jonathan-led privatization of the power sector. Okay, but you can see this is 9 years after, 2 trillion expended, and yet literally no difference. So if you paint a picture to a child of what existed when NEPA or PHCN was operating, that's the federal government was operating, and now with the GENCOs, the TCN, and the DISCOs, it's literally no difference. Nothing has changed. So there's not a blackout looming. We have been in a blackout. Now, the truth is, currently, 14 out of the 23 powered plants are down. That's about 2/3 that should be producing.
14 out of 23 power plants are down.
Yes, are down due to gas constraints. For a country that has more gas than even crude oil reserves. And then the frequent maintenance, and as you hear each time the grid has been shut down, etc. Now, the truth is, my simple summation is this: Nigerians will have to decide what kind of government or land do you want to live in. Meaning, you are literally going to have to protest at this point in time. This is no longer about legislation, about National Assembly, about our government. This is bad government all the same. Because you see, power generation is not rocket science. It's something that had been taken care of years ago. Okay? But as you can see from the first story, when we are not able to put a clamp down on corruption, are we really sure that the 2 trillion that has been expended literally went to the fulfillment of social amenities? I mean, you have the issues of insecurity, you have the issues of the economy. Power is at the top of issues that will resolve the economic problems of this country. Yet we are still in a cesspool
All right,
of
David.
darkness and blackout. Nigerians, this is really your own problem. If we don't stand up and begin to take back our government, begin to hold them accountable, and stop listening to all these I stole 80 billion, I stole this, then we'll continue this blackness.
Thank you very much.
Going over to your messages on WhatsApp, remember to send them in on Twitter and on the live stream as well. Cisco Delgado says, hold on, for your information, my refrigerator is now the abode of cockroaches because we do not have electricity supply in my area at Mount 12. Our electricity supply issues are easy to solve if our lawmakers are just will be honest and shun corruption.
Honest.
Ali says it's safe to say this government's achievement is only to name corrupt officials. That's just it. No prosecution, nothing. Just mention them in the newspapers to show Nigeria that we are working. And Kunle from Ikotun says the issue of the EFCC barrage of arrests during a year of political activities calls for serious concern. I support the speaker talking about the vote that this is only a media trial. The EFCC should live up to its functions.
All right, keep sending in your messages 0809
Okay, so luckily this next story comes to you, and we're going to take a look at the outcome or of the NRC's news update. Now, from this day newspaper, a train attack, relatives of abducted victims vow to disrupt services resumption. This following the announced resumption of services on the Abuja Kaduna route of May 23rd by the Nigerian Railway Corporation, the NRC. Well, the relatives are saying that the abducted victims are still abducted and nothing has been done, and it's we heard from the chairman of the concerned relatives of abducted persons, Dr. Jima, who accused the management of being insensitive towards the plight of the victims and their families. Now, luckily, what do you say to this? Is there because we've seen sometimes when it becomes business as usual, right, when services are resumed, sometimes we have the forgotten ones, the victims, who then just get swept under the carpet. Would you agree with him, or what would you say about this?
Um, this in another week, it will be exactly 60 days that the incident that happened, and it just seems that we are helpless every time this happens. People who have money are able to find a way to contact the kidnappers, pay, and get their loved ones released. Out of these people that were kidnapped, we hear that the former MD of Bank of Agriculture was released because they paid a ransom. We heard, not confirmed. Some others have also been released. From previous incidences, families had claimed that they paid ransom to have their family members released. So what we're seeing in essence is the helplessness of government in providing the basic minimum that that's supposed to be its function: security and safety of lives and territorial integrity of the country. That's why the government has gone silent on this, and it is now in the hands of every family.
Well, the government did come out to say that they were seeking international help.
I'm saying, as far as I am concerned, this is a matter that should be on the front burner every day since this thing has happened. This isn't the first time, and as much as we dilly dally on this, it emboldens this
Now, when you
kidnappers
say
to
that
do
this is a
more.
matter that should be on the front burner, right? Because for me, you're talking about what we see on the pages of what we hear from the press. Isn't that a fourth estate issue?
I'm not talking about the press now. I'm talking about the government itself. Government must be seen to be doing something. Yeah, maybe a weekly update, a monthly update, something. Now, these are the people going to the news to announce that government has not done anything. In the last 1 week, have you heard anything from the government about the plight of these people? No. But what we are hearing from this report is the families of the people adopted that are going to the news to say this is the situation. Meanwhile, the only thing that concerns the NRC in all of this is that we're resuming services on May 3rd. We'll need your name. The name server that is not live. So it means that, so if I get to the station and I'm providing my name, how are they confirming that that name I provided is correct?
I'm
They're just
concerned
seeing it
about
on a piece of
security,
paper.
Lakunle.
So
Before now, we know that some police escorts are always on the trains taking people from Abuja to Kaduna. But this happened. Now there were invaders, or I mean, these people who attacked the train. The train was in motion when this attack happened.
Let's call them
Were Yeah,
terrorists.
well, we're resuming the train services again. What are we doing to make sure that we avert a recurrence?
that's what I'm saying, that
Well,
because
the
nothing has been
NRC has
done.
said that it is going to have increased security,
From
putting that
where?
out there.
From where?
Are we
Is
going
it
to
from the
have the
same police
military
that
join in?
is 350,000 men and women for 200 million people? That a third of that number is doing handbag carrying for VIPs? Is it from there? Are they recruiting a private security, whatever? The last time they did something, some military helicopter was escorting the train. It's not sustainable. So the real problem, don't let up, we are treating the symptoms. We're leaving the real ailments behind.
Which, in your opinion, is?
The real problem is security, the territorial integrity of this country. We're saying these people that are doing these attacks are not Nigerians. They are coming from outside of Nigeria. So what are we doing to stop them from coming in? If they come in and commit any crime, what are we doing to stop them from going out so that we can apprehend them and make them face the law? You get what I'm saying? So it is not much about the train itself. It is about the security and safety of the people who will use the service. So right now, from this report, what these people are saying is that they are now left to their fate to go and find money to pay. Anyway, people find a way to contact the kidnappers and their doctors to pay this monies anyway. So it means some people know where they are. And a governor also confirmed it that they know where they are, and he suggested then that we should go and bomb the place. Yes. So what are we talking about?
All right, luckily, let's look
So-
through some of the messages on WhatsApp. We have this one from Sarah too. It says, if only the government will improve power sector, will have light and the demand for fuel will reduce. JJ sends in a message, says, the voice firebrand this morning. It's just sad there is nothing new in what he's saying. Adevo don't turn town crier. Sorry, Devo, don't stop, Biko. Deji comes in with a message, says the most unreliable service provider in Nigeria is undisputedly the discos. We pay but don't get value for our money. Bills come like clockwork for blackouts supplied. Power supply is a massive scam in this country. The rail lines on the same route has been opened by the government for movement. This is a terrible disaster, like sheep being led to slaughter. Nigerians are being encouraged to go and die. That's DG sending in that message. But quickly, let's look at this from the This Day newspaper, Lakunle. Exporters want access to repatriated proceeds to address complaints of forex trading on importer and exporter window. Now, the stakeholders in the Nigeria export sector have called on the federal government to allow exporters access to their repatriated proceeds in order to address their complaints on foreign exchange trading on the investors and exporters window. Just run us through that story, lovely.
Okay, so this story is about people who trade from here to other countries around the world. And one of the ways that the Honorable Minister for Finance at the sometime middle of last year had said that we're looking to improve our forex inflow was the repatriation of of
Export proceeds.
export proceeds. Okay, so here we are now. The people who do this business are saying, government, Biko, please let us have access to our repatriated funds. What does that tell you? Okay, so you have encouraged people to do business. They have made money. They have repatriated the funds here, and it is stuck somewhere between the CBN and their banks, and they can't have access to it. So how do they sustain the business they are doing? So
Okay, so let me
you
just
you
add
have
on that. They do have access. The only point is because there's a law on
that's where I'm
where
heading.
you change your money,
Yeah.
and they only get official rate INE about 420, whereas the real rate in the market is hitting 600.
Mm.
So they're at a loss. They
So
feel cheated.
exactly. So here you are. You are saying the business they have done here, the inputs that has gone into the business that, for example, say let's just take a random sample. Somebody who um, processes cocoa in Nigeria will probably have bought the machine to do the processing of cocoa in forex. Yeah, brings it into Nigeria, pays excise duty and all of that. He probably would have sourced the money from an alternate source to be able to do that. Now he now processes the cocoa here, he sells, he now repatriates the funds back to Nigeria, and you say to such an individual that he will get his money in the official rate of 414 naira. Meanwhile, he sourced the money used to buy the equipment at 500 naira. So that is what is the issue here. And this is a disincentive to people wanting to repatriate their funds. Meanwhile, there's a law that says if you sell outside and you don't repatriate your funds, it's criminal and it's you are liable to some punishment, you know. So this is where the Nigeria Export Processing Promotion Council, the Ministry of Trade, the people involved in this business have to sit together and agree at something that is workable for them. Will you give them access to funds to operate at official rate so that when they
Definitely.
repatriate, they can get at official rate?
Okay, so we have got messages coming in. Let's get into WhatsApp. Let's get into YouTube. Let's get into Twitter. And up on WhatsApp, Don Jojo says, or yeah, David from Koyura says, what is the rationale behind non-Nigerians coming into Nigeria to blow up a train and then say that the federal government knows what they want? It doesn't add up. Ospavian from Ekba says, to an extent, I agree with Lakunle. However, we should read between the lines, as their cry for foreign assistance implies that they can't solve it, and the NRC statement is that they are moving on. The poor families are on their own, in Fabian's
Absolutely.
opinion. And Joseph says the government has totally surrendered this nation to the high and mighty. Okay. Yinka Bolu says, but luckily the terrorists said they don't want money, rather the release of their fellow killers. Let's put it out there. Should the federal government release their commanders to them or storm the location and damn the potential collateral damage? Let's not just pick holes, sometimes reverse the roles in this situation. And taking it over to youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. AJ Neke says, the myriad problems that hold Nigeria spellbound, they're just astronomical. As we speak, there's no movement in Umuahia because some faceless group wants 4 days sit at home. Also goes on to say 53 days in the hands of abductors for the Kaduna kidnapped victims. The nation has moved on and is looking at elections the same way Buniyadi, Chibok, and other kidnap situations happened. Legalize guns for all is HK's solution to this problem. Okay, let's take a look at New Telegraph News. Aviation fuel scarcity not peculiar to Nigeria, says federal government through the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, who said that the scarcity of Jet A1 with its attendant high costs it's not just about Nigeria. It's yeah, you can find it around the world. However, he said that the scarcity will end when the Dangote and Port Harcourt refineries become operational. Now, Devo, this also comes in as we got news from the Punch that the agreement that was reached last
Mm.
week, in which marketers were to supply the airlines with the Jet A1 at a reasonable, in the airlines' minds, price. Yeah,
It failed.
it's finished.
Ah,
It lasted for it lasted till now.
it was
So
just
the
6
three
million
months
liters.
became
Yeah, because
a
it was
week.
just 6 million liters.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, this article, I just hate it because each time they say aviation fuel scarcity not procured to Nigeria, FG. I would like to add, as the FG whines Nigerians, okay? Because I'm tired of
Articles
just
can't say that.
just throwing, spinning the whole issue. Now, you see here, government deflects, government scapegoats once again by saying that the reason for the high aviation fuel is that it's not only in this country, one, it's across the globe because of the Ukraine-Russia war. Many people cannot get access to various energy sources. Now, um, secondly, they now whine us again by saying that maybe when the Dangote refinery comes on stream, that's a private sector operator. That's abdication of duty. Thirdly, by saying, oh, or if the Port Harcourt refinery, which is being fixed, comes on board, that's a $1.5 billion investment, which we have not seen the beginning or the end of. And going by the Minister of Petroleum's position, it's supposed to start working as of the time they are leaving. Now, you see, the truth is this, right? Currently, government is discouraging any subsidization of aviation fuel. And that's why they had that little fracas between the NMPC and the airline operators. Now, I say, shut down. Let all of us, both government and the citizens, experience the pain and the hardship because they're not going to
Well, that's your
subsidize.
solution for everything at this point. Shut down. Just shut down the country for a
Shut
second.
down, and then maybe we can all sit down and agree on a way forward.
All right, just
And
before we go, let's just squeeze this in from Daniel. Daniel sends a message from Watford. He says, the federal government's attitude towards security is appalling. How can you resume services when there is no certain resolution to the kidnapped victims? What's going to stop further kidnapping? It's not helplessness, but incompetence of the administration.
all right, and take the rest of your messages over to Twitter where you can find at Lakunle70 and at Devo Okori. Find them and tell them what you think. Okay? Coming up, 8:15, it is going to be sports inside the locker room.
First Dad.
So Bamidele has a message for you. Says, is Lakunle saying the train services should never start again? What does he want? If the kidnapped citizens are held captive for the next 10 years, should the services not commence for 10 years? What does Lakunle want? Please tell
Who's
us.
asking?
He's a very foolish man. Let him go ahead.
Ask him if. Well,
Let him
no,
go
no,
and
no,
enter the
ask
train.
him. No, not enter.